Hello, everyone, and welcome to the House of Nostalgia. Every so often, I do a blues video, and it's part of a Blues Legends series. And today we are talking about Mr. Freddie King, who is also known as one of the Three Kings. The other two are B.B. and Albert King. Freddie's career was cut short due to his death at the age of 42 from heart failure. His talent influenced a lot of young musicians that came along years after his death. My favorite song of his, of course, is Going Down, and it's hard to believe that song was recorded in 1971. It still sounds fresh. Was this song even considered blues? I mean, as I stated in my other videos, blues was starting to move out in the mid-70s, and his music was swinging more to a rock and roll sound. Not the Little Richard type of rock and roll. It's sort of a mixture. Now, I personally didn't see that as a plan. This is the work of an exceptional musician who refused to be pinned down in just one genre of music. He was too talented for that. That's why his music was so influential to other musicians. Freddie King was born September 3rd, 1934 in Gilmer, Texas. He learned to play the guitar from his mother and uncle at the age of 6. And as a teen, him and his family moved to Chicago. Now, the South was given the down-home blues sound, but Chicago started showing out with all different sounds of music. You had Billy S. Stein, he was doing his thing in Chicago, and so was Eugene Armands. He had the first song to be released on Chess Records in 1950, and it was a jazz song. So yes, there was more than just blues performers who migrated to Chicago looking to perform in the nightclub scene and in search of a recording contract. At one point, Freddie and Jimmy Lee Robinson, who was also known as Lonesome Lee, put their own band together and called themselves the Every Hour Blues Boys. These two met in front of a welfare center, and Lonesome Lee became known as a sessions musician and backing up Little Walter. Now, by the time Freddie became 18, he started performing with sideman musicians. And they are basically musicians who are hired to perform in live shows with major artists. Now, Freddie was making a name for himself because some of the major Chicago blues musicians like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf were playing one way, and Freddie, along with his younger crew, was playing a totally different way. This might be one of the reasons why Chess Records never wanted to sign Freddie to their label, because his style of music had more of an edge to it. The other was that the Chess label thought he sounded like B.B. King. Now, I didn't hear that in his songs. Maybe Chess was just trying to find an excuse not to sign him, but he was able to do sessions work for Chess Records. In 1957, on an independent label called LB, he recorded his first record called Country Boy. This song didn't make it on the charts. I listened to that song on YouTube, and the song sort of matches the title. The instruments in the background do give a country sound. Then I compared it to some of the chart-topping songs out at the time, and I can see why it didn't make an impact. And I wasn't expecting to hear a lady on the song either. Her name is Margaret Whitfield. In 1960, he signed with King Records, which was in Cincinnati, and he recorded You Got to Love Her with a Feeling, and Have You Ever Loved a Woman, and Hideaway. Now, Hideaway became a very popular and huge success, hitting the top 10 on the R&B charts. It also rose to number 29 on the pop charts. In 1961, Freddie recorded an album full of instrumental songs that became hits with Freddie King's Let's Hide Away, Dance Away. Now let's discuss the song Hideaway. I listened to the live version, then the 45 version, and around the 2-minute mark, I started hearing the 1950s popular surfing riff, which later became part of the instrumental theme song to Batman. Now this riff has been sampled like crazy. Even the Fat Boys sampled it. He incorporated that riff in with the blues and I loved it. This song wasn't his though. It was already being played before he recorded his version and put his stamp on it. Eric Clapton made his own version of this song, and I'm not surprised by that at all. So far, all the blues artists that I made videos about had a big influence on the British performers who started around the 50s and 60s. They ended up recording together in 1974 for the Burglar album. I will put a link to Hideaway in the description box below. As a matter of fact, it was a lot of those instrumental songs off that album that became classics. In that same year, he released Freddie King Sings with another top 10 R&B hit, I'm Tore Down. He was hitting the charts, but unfortunately, this didn't last long. He recorded with King Records until the end of his contract in 1966. As I stated in the beginning, Freddie is one of the 3 kings, and each one has a different style of playing, and they all were and still are studied by serious guitar players. Freddie had a more intensified, fiery style of playing. He put a lot of passion into his music, and this was one thing that the 3 kings had in common. In 1968, Freddie did his first recording in 2 years on Cotillion Records with saxophonist King Curtis. They recorded 2 albums together. Freddie King is a blues master and My Feelings for the Blues. In 1971, he recorded Getting Ready, which produced the first single, Going Down, that I ever heard of his before I made this video. So I was missing out on a lot and didn't know it. He went on to record 4 more albums, including Burglar in 1974. Before his death in 1976, Freddie spent over 300 days on the road in 1 year. He liked his drinks. He once told a journalist that he liked Bloody Marys because they got food in them. I do get that was a joke. Being on the road like that is not good for your health at all. Eating the wrong types of foods. People didn't have any other options at that time like they do now. And who wanted it? Nobody knew about food like that in the 70s. Eating healthy and exercising didn't become big until the 80s. Freddie was performing with multiple rock and roll groups all over the world. His career never got to the point where he was performing in hole-in-the-wall nightclubs. Nothing like that. He always performed in front of huge crowds. His music influenced artists like ZZ Top, who inducted him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2012, Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Mayall, Jeff Beck, and a host of others. He was listed at number 15 in Rolling Stone magazine's 100 greatest guitars of all times. He had guitarists going out buying his signature guitar Gibson ES345 just because they saw him with it on the front of his album cover. He recorded some of the most influential instrumentals of the 20th century. Freddie King played that guitar like a rock and blues god. I would like to thank you all for watching my video on Mr. Freddie King.